This is telling people that if you're reliant upon oil, you've got a fragile existence. Even if it costs you more to build solar, you've got to build solar as your own alternative energy system. Because without energy, there's no civilization. And that's what we're learning the hard way from this conflict. So I think individual responses is going to be get some way to have your own power source. And for most people, that means having solar.
One man that has done a lot for both solar and sustainable energy is Elon Musk.
He has. He's also helped get bloody Trump elected, so I think you've got to score that against him as well. But yeah, his work on solar and power and rocketry, I've absolutely admired that. And I see that as a critical positive contribution. But getting Trump elected, he played a major role in that. He should learn from that mistake and get the fuck out of politics.
He has backed off politics now, which is...
I think he's realised how poisonous it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like he's realised you can't really change the beast.
No.
He tried.
Yeah. He should stick with the area where he's mature, which is what he does with energy systems and what he does with rocketry. He's really, in terms of legacy, he's tainted his legacy by getting involved in politics. Go back to engineering.
So you say that you think people should invest in solar for their homes to get their own energy sources so that they're a little bit insulated from these sort of macroeconomics.
Yep.
Is there anything else they should be thinking about? The average person, the cost of living crisis, what happens next? What should they be doing now?
The thing that I'm most worried about this is the impact upon food. I'm the last person to talk about growing your own food. I've never done it. I've got brown thumbs, not green ones. But I think if you can have any way to produce your own food, you've got a bit of insulation against what's happening at the global level. The lesson that comes out of this is self-sufficiency. If we don't have self-sufficiency, then these sorts of global chaotic things can destroy you completely with you having no recompense. If you have some degree of self-sufficiency, you can survive.
And how does one create self-sufficiency? Growing your own food is quite expensive and slow, isn't it?
Yeah, extremely.
So how does one develop self-sufficiency in these sort of economic climates? Is it saving money or is it...
I think it's having your own physical resources close to you that enable you to... Money doesn't matter if you can't buy the product in the first instance. The product doesn't exist anymore. So one thing that happened during World War II is a large amount of food was grown in the UK by people turning their gardens into market gardens.
I've heard you make a few predictions about the future of the economic markets. You're famous for predicting 2008 and the financial crash that occurred then. I've heard you saying that you think because of AI, there's going to be another financial crash around the corner within 1 or 2 years. Yeah.
What's happening with AI is a classic economic boom and bust cycle overlaid on the fact that AI can also eliminate a huge amount of employment, which we've never seen that possibility in the past on that scale. But a common pattern in capitalism is that some new technology will be developed, like railways, for example. Some people see the potential profitability of railways. Everybody pours in creating railways. You get too many railways built. 90% of the companies that create the railways go bust, but then we all have these rail systems that we benefit from afterwards. So that's the classic pattern. Joseph Schumpeter was the person who best described that Austrian economist from the early 20th century. So he said, you'll get the banks will finance a new investment area. That investment produces a new technology, which causes a boom while you're building the technology. But when the technology comes online, it undercuts existing businesses and causes a slump. So that boom and slump cycle, and AI is a natural example of that. And what you get is massive overinvestment in the first instance, because everybody who invests in AI has the ambition of being the only AI provider on the planet. Therefore, you get too many companies investing. There's too much money going into it. That's what causes a boom. But then when the technology comes online, because it undercuts existing technologies, you have a slump.
And when you look at the investment taking place at the moment, the big tech companies, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, who own Google, Oracle, is on track to spend $720 billion on AI infrastructure in 2026 alone, which is less than 20% of the revenue that they're making. We are seeing a 5-to-1 ratio of money being spent versus money coming in, which is historically unsustainable.
Yeah, and I think that's true. There has to be a slump coming out of this. And in a sense, that's part of the natural cyclical behavior of capitalism. Because if you want to make a profit, you've got to bring in technology that undercuts everybody you're currently rivals with. So the railways are a classic example there. You had to get around by carriage instead. You undermine the carriage companies by bringing in the railways. But the ultimate benefit, society benefits because now you've got the railways for transportation. So that's the same sort of thing that AI is doing this time around. But 90% of those companies are going to fail.
I mean, this is kind of what we're seeing already. So the failure rate of AI-specific startups has hit 90% in 2026.
Wow, that's luck.
Yeah, you predicted that one correctly. Significantly higher than the 70% average for general technology. Roughly 95% of enterprise AI pilots fail to move into production when they incur massive costs. The other thing I think a lot about is a lot of startups now are raising a lot of money at crazy, crazy valuations. I can think of one particular startup I know. They're making like a couple of $1 million a year. They've raised at $1 billion valuation.
Wow, yeah.
And because they've got the word AI on them. And the thing is, because everyone's such in a frenzy at the moment about AI, they're probably going to raise it at a $2 billion valuation 6 months from now.
Yeah.
When you think about what's going on there, someone somewhere is putting their money in.
And they're going to lose it all.
And when everybody starts losing all their money very, very quickly, you see this contraction where everybody realizes that their paper gains, the gains they thought they had on paper because a valuation went up, have just evaporated.
Yep.
And when you see that, you have to quickly count your pennies and get frugal.
And pull back in again.
Lay people off and so on and so forth. So I actually do personally believe that we're probably within 24 months of a pretty severe contraction. And that won't just impact these tech oligarchs, it'll impact all of us in different ways.
Yeah, it's a boom and bust cycle. I mean, the only thing which we've experienced in our own lives, which is similar, would be the telecommunications bubble and then the internet bubble between 1990 and 2001, 2002. We don't get bubbles in the internet anymore because that's now a stable technology in that sense. But it wasn't a big one. This is much bigger.
What do we do? As entrepreneurs, as team members in companies, what do we do at this moment if what you're saying is correct, that there will be a
boom and bust?
A boom and bust. Which I think every smart person that I've spoken to agrees that there will be a bust soon.
Yeah.
Their timelines vary.
Yeah.
But what does one do right now in March, April 2026 to prepare for this?
Well, you put money aside if you can. You buy other assets you think are going to survive the boom and bust cycle.
Like what?
That's the trouble. I mean, gold's been driven up. Gold's now been driven down. People are buying Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is collapsing as well. In some ways, you can't. It's like saying, what do I do during an earthquake to not fall over?